I have a keyboard problem. This is known, my girlfriend constantly jokes about it, like you don't need that many keyboards, and she's right. So I kind of promised myself I wouldn't buy any more keyboards this year. Then I got a message on YouTube asking like, hey, we have a cool keyboard, you want to try it for free, no strings attached. And well, that panned out. I got to try this. It got delivered to me in person last week. I don't receive any sponsorship for this. These are my own opinions on it. I think that the only difference would be that I will email them about my findings and I get some feedback back, and that's mostly so I can be inclusive in the text, like what are the plans on the negative points that I have on it. But overall, it solves a lot of the problems I had with the Moonlander, and of course, just like in the last video, keyboards are very personal. This is my opinion on it. This is why this works for me, and there's still some of the old problems that I had in the last one, not the least being that the split keyboard is always just outside of the angle that I expected to, but we'll dive into that later. Now, of course, this being a prototype, this is not the final set of the stuff that you get. It's all still very rough. It works very well, that I liked about it, but there is a lot to talk about here as to why it solves a lot of my problems, why it allows me to type more and more often. It's a bit finicky here, but that's because my studio isn't as wide. Normally when I'm working, it's more on a side. I'll put some B-roll up for that. Okay, some first impressions. First of all, I immediately could get to work with this. While the initial tests were like 55 words per minute, so it was a bit slow because I had to get used to it, mostly the shift and the slash key here being in a different position. Didn't take that much time to get used to it because, well, it's just a regular keyboard, and the split is where my brain expects it from natural keyboard. So the 6 is on the left side, G and H are like at the end, so that means that, you know, the keyboard tapers off exactly where I expected. I love that I got the split back because I love like typing in split, and that results into me really enjoy typing on it. One of the things that I started to notice is that I'm starting to type longer and longer sentences when I'm like in MS Teams, for example. So normally I would just shorten it in so I don't have to type too much and I think about it. This one, I just ramble on. You can see that my replies are like 2 to 3 times longer than for my coworkers, just because I just enjoy typing on it. I've also been making excessively a lot more notes in Logseek. This is also one of the reasons why I like keyboards, because as someone who talks a lot about note-taking, the number one way you take notes is with your keyboard. Taking into account the cons I had with the Moonlander keyboard, that one after 6 months, I still couldn't get like fully up to speed with it. I still didn't feel super comfortable with it. This one, after a week, I just love it. It's simple. My brain just works in this one. So I went much quicker to like, okay, this is a benefit for me. And if you're someone that's used to these type of keyboards and you're thinking of going split or more configurable, I think setting up something like this might be a more cost-effective way than changing the whole thing around. If you don't have the time to learn something like Dovrak, which I don't, or nor the time or energy that I want to take into it, then this might be like a nice in-between between, okay, I either have to spend a month relearning a keyboard, or I just get the benefit straight away and I can keep going, which is some of the things that I liked. The tweaking is there, but it's less so because of all the keys already having like a predefined thing in my head. Now let's start with the things that I really liked about this setup. First of all, I like that it's a straight keyboard that is cut in half, and that has a few benefits that I didn't really think about until I had it. One is that it's excessively easy to change the keycaps into something else. I'm ordering some right now to make this thing more me, but that means that any keycaps that I'll get for a straight keyboard will fit on this, and this will work, with the notable exception of course the space bar, because that one's broken in the half. But you know, that's the only one that I have to get like a special set for, and those are readily available. Another thing that I like about the Straigh Layout is that if somebody were to use my keyboard for a stint, they could of course do it like this and then just get away with it. This is normal for most people. So yeah, it's very easy for people that need to work on your system for a short stint to just close it and then work with it without going like, oh, but this is a weird thing. Those things I really like about the way this is set up. So another thing that I really liked about it is the portability. Now this is something that the Moonlander already had, but that one had the problem that I had to always wire it. And that means that if I would bring it to a meeting or something, it immediately would draw the attention, because you open your laptop, you put your Moonlander status already taking attention, then you wire it up and it starts to be this whole wire hell around you. Much less with this. If I only take these two things, let me get the armrest out of the way, then this doesn't take up that much of the attention of people. And because, you know, it's small and you can fit them together, I can easily chuck them in a bag. So those things really help in traveling with this. And the fact that, of course, unlike keyboards that are in one piece, it doesn't stick out of my bag. I tried multiple different keyboards, and yes, I can bring them along because I happen to have a large backpack, but it's far from ideal. Personally, I liked the price, but doing research about it, I mostly was biased due to the Moonlander being so expensive. These ones are around 155 on Kickstarter right now, and from the research that I did, most split keyboards are around that price range. Some are a bit higher, some are a bit lower, but most are around this price range. So it's affordable for a mechanical split keyboard, but you know, it's still more expensive than getting a keyboard from like your local Best Buy. Personal preference on my side is that these things aren't ortholinear, and that's very personal. Some people really love that. I was sold on the idea when I got the Moonlander, but I also realized quickly that decades of ingrained typing means that a staggered approach just really works better for my brain. And there are people that say that, okay, but because it isn't ortholinear, it's not ergonomic. And yeah, I'm calling bullshit on that one, because people are personal preference based, and having like the split wide sitting is more natural to me. My wrists aren't twisted. Yes, maybe the fingers don't get everything, but it's a staggered thing that you get a split keyboard, you get it built out. Some people need concave. I say, like, you know, don't care about that too much. Do what you need. If you have like a lot of finger troubles and you need an ortholinear keyboard, this isn't the keyboard for you, and you should get one of those. If you, however, are looking for a way to like upgrade and have like a split working environment to sit in a more natural position throughout the day, then this might be it. And another thing that I like about it is that the switches are interchangeable, so I can try this thing with different switches and keycaps. That isn't always the case, but definitely a warm welcome here, because I'm gonna be trying these with different switches over time to see if I can make it even more fitting towards my typing style. But it's not all roses. There's things that I dislike from it, and some things that I maybe can complain about, but also not. One of the things I don't like is the thing that I like. It's split, and that means that yes, I can have this natural position, but it also means that very often when I put them somewhere, I'm like constantly moving and tweaking until I get to just the right angle to work. I think this problem for me personally is easiest to solve by eventually having like a second set, so I can just have these on my desk in their perfect position and just keep them there, and have another set that I bring along when I'm working outside of my home office. So that will work. That's the trick that I did with a lot of other more cheap keyboards, like this Logitech Wired, where I have two of the same. So one was always on my desk and the other one was at my office, so I didn't have to drag it up and down. And that's perfectly fine if you have like affordable keyboards, but once you get into like the Moonlander range where you pay 400 per keyboard, that becomes a lot harder to sell, you know, to get that done. This one for 155, if I stick with it, then yeah, I would get a second set and just have that one for travel and one at the office in a fixed position, solving my split problem a bit. So another con that I had with this is that there's no Bluetooth. I asked them about it, and reliability is more important to them than Bluetooth support, though they would like to include it. So maybe it comes, maybe it doesn't. My thing is always, until it's there, assume it will never be there. So no Bluetooth, it's just tricky for me. I always forget dongles and cables and stuff like that. Speaking of the dongle, which works fine, currently the dongle is only USB-A, which is a problem for me, because if I have a laptop like this, which only has USB-C, it means that I can't keep the dongle inside my laptop at all times. So there's always a dongle hanging somewhere that I can forget or not bring along. So yeah, I would really prefer if I have the option to use USB-A or USB-C. So yeah, I would really like the option to maybe even get more than one dongle, but I'm not sure if that's technically feasible, but at least have the option to pick between USB-A and USB-C, because using an adapter from USB-C to A would be much less of a problem. Those would be on my desktop, for example, than on my laptop, where using a dongle just sticks out, so I have to remove it from the laptop, plug it back in, and then there's a good chance that I'll forget it. So another thing was that the bottoms for switching between wired are on the bottom, and they're really small and finicky. Sometimes I'm afraid I might break this. I asked them about it. They're saying like, yeah, it's not that frequently used. I think that's fair. I only need to use it like once a day, so you know, it's workable. But I really would have liked to have buttons on the top, because that means that I could just like make one hand movement and go like off, take them off and put them in my bag. For traveling, that would be great. Then the customization bit. So what I noticed is that when I configure it with something like Vile Rocks, that the wired and wireless way of working have their own configuration, meaning that slowly but surely as I'm tweaking this thing, they start running out of sync. I asked about it and I'm been told that one of the reasons is they store it in the dongle so that they can easily program the wireless version, which I think is great, and that the problem could be solved by saving loading a configuration. Now that doesn't work with the website, but it does work when I install the desktop app. So that's what I did. I installed the app on my laptop and now I just save one configuration file in my documents, and if it ever misses around, I can just load my old configuration and work from that. So, you know, minor issue, but it is. And then the last thing I hit was the switching around of the shift and slash. Now, as you can see here, that's done on purpose, because if you want the arrow keys here, then you have to make some space, and there's not enough space for a proper shift key here. I tried moving them around, that doesn't work mentally, and I thought it would be more annoying than it actually was. This was really annoying the first couple of days, but after about a week or so, I don't think about it anymore. And it's a small price to pay for a more compact design. A lot of the other keyboards have like the page up, page down, shift and on this side, meaning that there's an extra row added, making it a little bit bigger. And for me, in practice, I really prefer this FN and then using the arrow keys for home and page up, page down, because it just feels natural in my head. But your mileage may vary. If you're very used to the HDKL method of moving from Vim, then you might have preferred to have all the arrows on the bottom. I think this is a good concession they made, because most people are used to the arrows. Not everybody is as Vim heavy as Linux users like me. Then a couple of wish list things that are definitely not deal breakers, but would have been nice. First thing was that if you shove them together like this, I was kind of hoping for like a magnet. And initially I thought it was just me being finicky, but the first thing my girlfriend did when she saw this thing was like push it together and was hoping for like a click. It doesn't. I asked them, you know, is this something that's planned? And they said that the magnets in it might interfere with the wireless connection, and they prefer the connection to be reliable compared to like, you know, clicking together once in a while. And I have to agree, you know, day-to-day usage, I'll never use those magnets. It's just for that one gleeful moment. And if I have to pick between that one gleeful moment or this thing being absolutely reliable when I'm using it wireless, I'll pick reliability every day. Then the other one is I got this tote bag with it to carry it around. I said, like, you know, I would really prefer like some kind of hard case shell, and I'm told that they are working on that to get it like in a better carrying capacity, meaning that the keyboard isn't affected when you're traveling with it. Overall, it works fine. I mean, I can travel with it as is, but having it in a hard case shell, definitely if I'm carrying a keyboard around, is something that I just prefer, because it makes me feel safer, better, that my keys and switches aren't constantly randomly getting pressed while I'm in public transport. So glad that they are working on it, but as I said earlier, until I see it actually being done and ready, this is a wishlist item. And then a final point for me was a wishlist on the key placement, but that isn't really a wishlist item because I could solve that, because you can program this thing. So initially when I got this keyboard, the FN key was next to the space, and I'm very much used to the Windows Alt being in the order it is right now on this keyboard. So I have Control function, Windows Alt, and then space. And of course, because you can program it, I just reprogrammed the buttons, move the keys around, and Bob's your uncle. It's great. It works the way I want it. So initially there was a wishlist item until I discovered that, you know, you can fix that in literally 2 minutes of time, opening the software and moving the keys around. Yay for programmable keyboards. Now, small bug, but I think that's because it's a prototype, is that not every USB-C cable I used was working with it. I think that's just because it's a prototype. I can't imagine the end product not working with every USB-C cable that just has a standard setup for it, but I'll be definitely checking that over time, and I did report it back to them so that they can have a look at it. Now, this was a really short look on this keyboard. I love it. I like typing on it. Typing with it goes faster. I don't think it is 100% unique. If you look around, you see that there are definitely more split keyboards on the market that use a similar design, though most of them have this extra row here with page up, page down. And here, definitely the choice for making it a bit smaller is better. I love the wooden panels here because they're easy to clean. So overall, this is my new favorite keyboard. I've been trying a lot of keyboards in the last half year, mostly the Vecker Alice and the Logitech TM860, I think. Don't point me on that because people are using weird names. And they work really well, but they're stitched together. I'm glad I'm back on like an actual split where I can keep my mouse and my coffee in the middle, or the cat, but she hasn't seen on this one yet because I may be typing too fanatically on it. Highly recommend looking at the Knock-free Kickstarter page. I'll put the link down below. Really looking forward to trying the production version once it's finally hit, because I'm sure last of the kinks that I had will be out of it. And I'll be using this for the next 6 months and then make a more in-depth video about the usage over a longer period of time. Hey, editing boss here. So I got 2 feedback points from Knock-free when I emailed them about the video. One is that they're gonna try and provide multiple dongles if Bluetooth doesn't work out, meaning that you can, you know, attach a dongle to multiple devices. I'm not sure how the switching will work, but you know, nice idea that they're working on that part. Also, they decided to include a case. So they're gonna be a soft case and a hard case, with the soft case of course being smaller and the hard case providing more protection. Overall, great additions. Any other details I'll put in the description down below, because I will not be editing this video anymore and YouTube won't allow me anyway. Thanks for watching. Just remember, you're awesome, keep it up, and see you in the next one.